Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel, The Blazing Sun. And today we are in sixth session of our complete Python fundamentals from basics to advanced course. And today we are going to study about the iterative statements in Python, which are also called as loops. So let's get started. Now before studying the loops, in the previous session, the fifth session of our series, I gave you one homework question and one brainstorming question as well. Now, before starting today's topics, we will be discussing these questions. Now, I have this particular homework question for you. What is the question stating? You have to use match case and display the name of the month as per user's input. If no such month exists, display a valid month. So you remember that in the previous session, we did a similar type of question in which we were using the days of the week instead of the months. So we can do this question as well. So I am going to write the code. So this is homework question dot py. Okay. So the question asked to take an input as an integer from the user, and the message that we will give to the user will be enter the number of month. Now what I will do is I will take match and the value that I have to check is month. Then I will take the different cases. Let's say case 1. If the value entered by user is 1, in that case the month will be January. If it will be 2, uh, the month will be February. February. Similarly, for all the 12 months, you can do the same thing. I am just doing copy paste, but I encourage you to type the whole code because you are in your learning phase. So this would be the third month, this would be the fourth month, this would be the fifth month, this is the sixth month, this is the seventh month, this is the eighth month, uh, this would be the ninth month, this would be the 10th month, this would be the 11th month, and this would be the 12th month. So yeah, January, February, then March, the fourth will be April, fifth will be May, sixth will be June, seventh will be July, eighth would be August, then ninth would be September, 10th would be October, 11th would be November, and the 12th one would be December. Now we will also take our default case If the value entered by the user is not any one of these values, I will just print invalid month. So let's run our code. Suppose I enter 1, the output is January. Suppose I run the code again and I give the input as 12, the answer is December. Now, if I give the input as 8, the answer is August. Now, suppose I write something like 15, the answer is invalid month. So this was our first question. Now, the second question that I ask you to solve is you have to take three integers as input from the user and you have to display the smallest number and the largest number. So starting with the writing the code for the smallest number. Okay, so this is the brainstormer question .py. Let me take the three numbers as input from the user. I am telling the user enter first number. Similarly, I am taking the second number as input from the user. Enter second number. Similarly, I am taking the third number as input from the user. Enter third number. Now I have taken all the numbers as input. Now let's think about the logic, how we will find the smallest number. So if I say that num1 is the smallest number, how do I say that it is the smallest number? Basically, num1 should be lesser than num2 as well as lesser than num3. If I say num2 is the smallest one, so num2 should be smaller than both num1 and num2 and num3. And similarly, if I say that num3 is the smallest number, it should be smaller than both num1 and num2. So we can write the conditions for this. If num1 is lesser than or equal to num2 and num1 is lesser than or equal to num3, I will print the value of num1, then the message is the smallest number. And if num2 is basically the smallest one, which means num2 is lesser than or equal to num1 as well as num2 is lesser than or equal to num3. So I will print num2 is the smallest number. Otherwise, if none of these cases is true, this means that the third number, which is num3, is the smallest. So I will directly print. No need to write a different or similar condition in this case. You can use the else statement as well. So num3 is the smallest number. Okay, so this was uh, finding the smallest number. Now similarly, if I want to find the largest number, so the case would be or the we can say basically the logic will be the similar one. if num1 is the smallest, is the largest, so num1 would be greater than 2, num2, as well as greater than num3. If num2 is the largest, it would be greater than both num1 and num3. If num3 is the largest, it would be greater than both num1 and num2. So writing the similar conditions, if num1 is greater than or equal to num2 and num1 is greater than or equal to num3, I will print num1 is the largest largest number. And if num2 is greater than or equal to num1 and num2 is greater than or equal to num3, I will print num2, no, not num2, basically the value of num2 is the largest number. The third case, which would be the default case if none of these conditions is true, is num3 is the largest number. Now let's run the program for different test cases. Let's say our inputs are 1, 2, and 3. So first number is 1, second number is 2, third number is 3. So you can see 1 is the smallest number and 3 is the largest number. Suppose I say first and second inputs are 1 and the third number is 3, let's say. So 1 is the smallest number and 3 is the largest number. Suppose all the numbers are equal. Let's say 5 and 5. You can say 5 is the smallest number as well as the largest number. So we have also covered the case in which all the three numbers would be equal to each other. Okay, so we have solved our brainstormer question as well. Now moving to the topics discussed to be discussed in this particular session. So in the uh, previous sessions, we basically discussed about some control flow statements. So control flow statements basically are which basically control the flow of the program, how the program will be executed. These statements basically help us to control the flow of the program. So we discussed the selection or the decision making statements, which are if else, nested if, and match case. And yeah, there was one more which I have not listed here. If, elif, else. But these are not the only uh, control flow statements. There are other categories as well. The second category basically is the iterative statements, also called as loops. So there are two forms of loops. One is for loop and another one is while loop. Our main focus in today's session would be this second category. We will study them in detail. Now, the third category we have is loop control statements, also called as jump statements. So basically, uh, even to control the loops, you have three particular statements which you can use. One is break, another one is continue, and the third one is pass. So we will study about them also. Then the fourth one, which we will study in the very end of this particular course, these are exception control. Basically, we will study them at the end of the this course, so no need to worry about them for now. These all are their categorizations: try, except, else, finally, and raise. So we will study them later. No need to worry about them for now. Now let's start learning about this iterative statements, also called as loops, for loop and the while loop. So let's start our session. We need to study what exactly loops are. Loops, or you can say iterative statements. So basically, loops are something like, suppose, let me give you an example. If you want to print hello world 5 times, what will you do? The first thing that you can do is you can write print hello world 5 times. Suppose, okay, this was easy. Now, instead of if I tell you print the hello world 1,000 times, so what you will say is that I can copy paste hello world 1,000 times. Okay, it would be somewhat more difficult. So you can see that sometimes the task that we want to do is repetitive, or basically we want to repeat some of the statements of our code, or we want to perform certain operation multiple times. So what we can do is we have something called as loops, which basically are iterative statements, or loops are basically uh, used to repeat certain part of your code again and again. Now you can decide how many times you want to repeat them. So you can think about them just like you have your playlist, uh, the playlist of your songs. So if you play some certain song and you are repeating it, so you can choose how many times you want to repeat that particular song. So if you want to repeat it, let's say 3 times, that particular song. So similarly, you can even repeat the particular lines of code that you want to or execute them again and again. So that you can do as well by using the iterative statements, or they can simply be called as loops. So what are loops? In simple words, I can write that they are used to uh, repeat a particular block of code, or you can say execute a block of code again and again. So this is the simplest definition. What I want to say is if you want to repeat certain thing, you can do it by placing that thing, or placing that particular block of code in loops. Now, I give you the example of printing hello world, let's say 5,000 times. Uh, so what you can do is, instead of just writing print hello world and copy pasting it again and again, you can just write hello world within a loop, and you can command that particular loop that you want to print that particular statement 1,000 or 5,000 times. So that is a very easy thing to do. So you can, when you will code this particular example, you can see that we are able to write this particular code in just matter of 2 or 3 lines, basically. So let's see the categorization of these loops. How many types of loops we have? So basically, we have 2 types of loops in Python. The first loops that we have are for loop. Now, for loops are most generally used. They are used generally, or you can say they are used when we know uh, the number of times the code should be executed. So for loop is basically used, generally used, if you know the number of times you want to execute that particular block of code. If you know that I want to execute this particular block of code 10 times, so it is preferable to use for loop. Uh, let's say, let me give you an example. Printing hello world 10 times. So you already know that you want to print that particular thing or execute that particular block of code 10 times. So you can easily use the for loop. So this was the example of uh, a particular situation in which we use the for loop. Now there is something called as range predefined function, or what I mean to say is there is a predefined function called as range. So basically, for using a for loop, you also need to understand what exactly the range is. So let me first tell you what exactly range function is. Then we will move further in these loops. So there is something called as range function. So range function actually has three values to enter within it. The first value is uh, the starting value, which you can call as start, the ending value, also called as end, and the step value. Uh, yeah. So basically, if you want to use for loop, you also need to understand the range function. So range is a predefined function in the Python. It basically has three parameters, just like how print statement has multiple parameters such as sep, end, file, flush, and yeah, basically these parameters and objects. So we studied these parameters in the previous session. Just similar to that, to tell the range function what exactly you want to do, you give three parameters. First one is first one is start, which is the starting value, the end, which is the ending value, and the step, which is basically the increment or decrement in the value. So to understand uh, this more in depth, first let me tell you the definition of this range function, or basically what it does. So range function actually range helps in generating a sequence of integers. Integers. Suppose you wanted to generate numbers starting from 1 to 10. So what you can do is basically you can give numbers uh, or you can use the range function. The starting value is 1, the end value is 11. Why 11 and not 10? Because see, the last value, which is 10, you want to also give that particular value. But if you will give 10, Python, the range function will basically ignore that particular value. So always remember that if you want to generate a particular sequence, starting value will always be the one that you want to begin with, but the end value will be basically the next value to the ending sequence. What I meant to say is, in this case, for generating the values from 1 to 10, each of these uh, whole numbers, or yeah, whole numbers from 1 to 10, uh, what you can do is you can give the starting value as 1, the end as 11, and the step as 1, because you are incrementing from 1, 2, 3, and so on. So what you are doing is from 1 you are going to 2, then 3, then 4. So basically the step or the increment is basically of 1. So let me give you different examples over here. So if I give range as, let's say, 1, 11, and 1. So what will happen is uh, you will get the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now let me give you another example. Let's say, what if I instead of the step being 1, I give the step as 2. So what will happen in this case is the starting value would be 1 itself. So you will start from 1. But now you will increment the value by 2. So 1 plus 2 is 3. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So this will be the sequence generated. Do note that the particular end value that you give is ignored. So it is not the part of the final sequence. Now, suppose I give the range as, let's say I want to start from, basically, I want to print the reverse numbers. Suppose want to start from 10. I want to go from 10 till 1. So in this case, my step would be negative. It would be -1, and the end value will not be 1, it would be 0. Because if I write the sequence in reverse, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, so the next value would be 0. So for getting 1 in your sequence, you also need to write the next value. So it would be 0. So what will you get in your output? You will get 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I want to tell you some keynote over here as well. Note, the default uh, start value is 0, and the default uh, step is 1. So you remember that in the print statement that we discussed in the previous session, different parameters as well had a particular default value. Let's say the end parameter had a \n as its default value. So if you do not write that end parameter over there, so it had what Python basically did that it basically uses that particular default value even if you have not given any certain value. So Python knows that if you have not given any certain value for that particular parameter, it you want to use the default value. Similarly, in this range function, you are giving three parameters: start, end, and step. So what I told you is start basically has a default value of 0. So let's say you did not give a particular start value over here. So what will happen is your range would start from 0. Suppose you did not give your step value over here. So the default value of the step is 1. So your sequence would get incremented, or each value of the sequence would get incremented by 1. So let me give you an example. Or let's say range was from uh, since the default value is 0, if I want to start my range from 0, I do not need to give the start value. So I can start giving the parameters from the end value. Let's say I want to give from 10, like this. So what will happen is I will get numbers from 10, starting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. What I want to say is, since I only give one parameter, which is 10, it would be treated as an end value. The first value or the starting value would be taken as the default, which is 0. The step value would be taken as 1 by default. And since you give a 10 as a parameter, that 10 would be basically the end value. So that 10, since you have given the 10 as a parameter, Python will ignore 10 and it will take the previous particular value in your sequence. So it will take time. So your sequence will be till from 0 till 9 and not from 0 to 10. Now, this was a very important note. Now, I will give you certain use cases or examples along with the syntax to use the for uh, for loops and the range function in it. So first, let me give you particular syntax. So the particular syntax for the for loop is for, let's say the variable is I, so I in range. Then you will give the start value, the end value, and the step value. And then you have to put the colons. And then within this particular loop, you can write your code. So for I in range, start and step. This is a particular code or particular syntax for writing a for loop, and please learn this particular syntax. Let me give you an example. So let's say I give you an example of in which for I in range, let's say I start the sequence from 1 and I want to take the numbers from 1 to, let's say I want to take odd numbers. So starting from 1 till 7, I want to generate all the odd numbers. So the end would be 8 because it would be ignored by Python, and the step would be 2 because you know that first the first odd number is 1, then the next odd number is 3. So 1 plus 2 is 3. So basically the odd numbers are incremented, or you get the odd numbers by incrementing the previous number by 2. So what will happen is, in the first run I will become 1, then I will become, in the next run I will get value of 3, I will get a value of 5 then, and at the end I will get a value of 7. So this is how uh, uh, for loop uh, works. Now I will give you a very easy example of printing. Print hello world 5 times. So how you can do it, this is what you can do. You can write for I in range, and since you want to print hello world 5 times, what you can do is, uh, you want to print hello world 5 times. So you can start counting from 1. You can go up to 6, and you know that 6 would be ignored. Then you can give a step up of 1. Either you can do this, or there would be another way as well, which I will tell you later. Then you can write print hello world. Now this would be a code. So what will happen is, starting from 1, Python will generate a sequence in the using the range function. So it will generate sequence from 1 till 6, but 6 would be ignored. So it will be generating sequence from 1 till 5, and the increment value, or basically the step, would be 1. So from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So basically 5 numbers, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, would be generated as a sequence, and I would be taking each and every value one at a time. And this loop will basically run for 5 times. For each value, 1 it will run for 1, for 2 it will run 1 times, for 3 it will run 1 time, for 4 it will run 1 time, for 5 it will run 1 time. So now let me code this particular example for you as well. Suppose I write for loop hello world dot py. Now let's say I want to print hello world 5 times. So I'm writing for I in range. Let's say I want to print 5 times, right? So start would be 1, end would be 6, step would be 1. I would give a colon, then I will write print hello world. Now do note that indentation is also necessary when using the loops. So do give an indentation while writing a particular block of code within the uh, loops. Now let's run this particular program. You can see that hello world got printed 5 times. You can even count that 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So after this first example, I have a question for you. The question is, you have to basically take a number as input from the user, and you have to actually print the whole table of that particular number and print its table. So I encourage you to try this particular question uh, by pausing this video, and then I will start discussing this question. So now I'm discussing this question. Let us understand the logic. See, a number you will take as an input from the user, that is very easy, an integer. But what is a table? It is just its multiplication, a number's multiplication with each number starting from 1 till 10. Remember that 1 and 10 are also included. So what you have to do is basically print, let's say suppose num is the number, num multiplied by 1 equals to num. Num multiplied by 2 is equals to something, and so on. Like that you have to basically print. So now I am writing the code. So I am naming the file as table uh, table using for loop using for loop dot py. So let me first take num as an input from the user. It would be an integer. So we need to do typecasting as well. Enter a number. Then to make the user's interaction better, I'll just print the table of uh, num is uh, is, and then I will print the table. Now what I can do is I can manually print num multiplied by 1 is equals to num1 num and so on till 10. But uh, suppose let's say there was some task which was we had to print not till 10 but let's say till 1000. So it would become very difficult to do that. Instead of that, I will do a smart thing which is using the loops. So what I can do is for I in range, uh, we have to do the numbers multiplication from 1 till 10. So starting from 1, I will give 11 because 11 would be excluded. So the numbers would be till 10. And I can give a step, but it is optional because if I do not give a step, the default value would be 1. So in this case, I'm not giving a step and then colons. Then I will print num, then comma, then multiplication sign you can give, or in mathematics we use the mathematical sign as x multiplied by, or yeah, you can give capital X multiplied by, let's say the value. So I is the basically the variable that is storing each and every number, that is num1, first number that is 1 till 10. So then I will write 1 I, then another comma, then equal to symbol, then I will write num multiplied by I. So this is the particular code for the uh, table of a particular number. Now let's run the program. So it is asking me to enter a number. Suppose I want to print the table of 5. So you can see the output is the table of 5 is, then 5 and 5 ones are 5, 5 twos are 10, and so on till 5 tens are 50. You can see the output. So this was our particular code. Now we have something called as while loop. While loop. So when is while loop used? It is basically used when we do not need know prior that how many times we want to execute particular code, block of code. So uh, it is used uh, it is used when we do not uh, know in advance how many times a block of code must execute. So it is different from the for loop in this way that in for loop we basically use the loop when we know in advance how many times the loop must run or how many times the particular block of code we have to execute. But we are using the while loop when we do not know in advance that how many times the particular block of code should be executed. So in that case, we are using the while loop. Now there is one more thing. You can see that we were using for loop. We gave three values: start, end, and step. So in while loop will run until and unless while loop will basically run till a particular condition is true. So this is an important line. While loop runs till uh, till the condition is true. Uh, till the condition is true. So you give a particular condition uh, as a you give a particular condition to the while loop, and while loop will be executed till the particular condition is true. So let me give you a particular syntax for that. So the syntax is let's say I write while, then I will write certain condition, then colons, then I will write certain code within it. So you can see that while loops syntax is very easy. This was the syntax. But do note over here that if you are using while loop, say there was one advantage in for loop. Let's see that you were giving a step value. Suppose let's say uh, like you gave a step value of 2 over here. So you did not need to increment the value yourself each and every time. But do remember in while loop you are just giving a condition. So suppose the condition is based on certain variable. Always remember to update the value of that variable. Otherwise, that particular condition will always be true and you might get an infinite loop. So what I want to say is if you do not update that particular variable's value, what will happen is your code will keep running until forever. So avoid that condition. So I am writing a very important note over here. Note. Note is this that uh, you must update the value of the variable used in the condition within the loop. So what I want to say is, suppose you gave a condition that I was starting with, let's say I was starting with 1. You gave a condition that I must be lesser than or equal to 10, let's say. But you forgot to update the value of I. So what will happen is, for each and every particular running of the loop, for each and every iteration, what I meant to say is, each time the loop will run, the value of I will remain as 1, and the condition that 1 is lesser than or equal to 10 will always be true. So this will uh, cause the loop to run for infinite number of times. It will keep running, and that is a very big problem. So now let me introduce you to something called as infinite loop. So this is not a particular. This is not a some particular. Now let me introduce you to something called as infinite loop. So this is not basically some kind of loop, but if a loop runs for infinite number of times, or basically the condition always remains as true, so it is called an infinite loop. Now note that there are many different ways to uh, make the infinite loop, but the easiest thing is, or what you can do is, give a while loop and write certain code within it, and write certain condition that will always be true. Suppose I write something as, let me give you an example. So infinite loop. Infinite loop. So infinite loop is basically a loop that keeps on running forever. This happens. This basically happens. Uh, Suppose you are using a while loop, so this will keep on happening if the condition always remains true, or you by mistake forgot to update the value of the variable which you were using in the condition. Or in case of for loop also, you can create an infinite loop. So I will give you certain examples. So the first example is, let's say, while you have written the while, then you wrote true. So you know that true is basically a particular Boolean value when a condition is always true. So if you are writing while true, so true will always be true. What I want to say is true has a value. So you have written true over here there in the condition, which means that condition will always be true. So what you can do is, let's say there was some code. So this is a infinite loop. Now I can give you another example as well. Suppose you wrote while and then you wrote any number. Now note that that number should not be equal to 0, because code this number, this particular number, and num is not equals to 0. And number is actually never incremented or decremented, means its value is never uh, updated such that it can become 0. What I mean to say is, basically what happens in Python is every non-zero number is assumed as true, while 0 is the only value which is uh, assumed as false. So this is the thing. Python assumes 0 as false and all other numbers as true. Similarly, you can using the string or using the string as well, you can create an infinite loop. So let me give you some another example in which you are using the infinite loop. So if you write while, then you write any string. Let's say there was some string and then certain code. Do note that this string must not be must not be empty string. What I mean to say is, suppose you have written uh, inverted commas and you have not given anything within it. So that is called an empty string. So empty string is taken as false in Python, while anything within inverted commas is taken as true. So you can write empty string is assumed as false while all other strings are assumed as true. So this was the way of creating infinite loops using a while loop. So uh, now let us move to the further topics. Now I will tell you, I will give you certain examples of the while loop as well. Now the first question that we will do is the same question of printing the table of a number, but instead of the for loop, now we will use the while loop. So what I will do is I will make another file and I will call it table using uh, while loop .py. Just like previous case, I will take one num as an input and it will be an integer. So, and I will tell enter a number. Then I am just printing that the table of num is this, just for users experience. Then I will use a while loop. So how do I give the while loop? For that, you first need to assign certain value to a variable. Let's say I. So you have to start printing, or you want numbers starting from 1 till 10. So what you will do is you will assign first value, which is 1. Then what you will condition, you will write while. Then in the condition you will write that I must be lesser than or equal to 10. Or you can even write I should be lesser than 11. So it's your choice, but I am writing I is less than or equal to 10. Then what I will do within this is I will print uh, num, then multiplication symbol, then multiplied by I, uh, then equal to sign, then I will actually multiply num by I. So then I will also increment the value of I. So I will do I is equals to I plus 1, or I can even do I plus is equals to 1 if you remember my assignment operators session. So I can do I is equals to I plus 1. So you can also do I plus is equals to 1. That is your choice. Now let me run this particular code. Suppose I enter a number as 5. So you can see the multiplication table of 5 got printed. Now I will give you certain question to solve, and this is a very good question using the while loop. And the question is, uh, take a number, take a number as input from the user, print the digits of the number starting from the end. So this is the question. Now, this is a very good question, and it will teach you many different concepts. You will also learn how to implement a certain uh, program in which you do not know that how many times your certain code should run using a while loop. You will also learn how to basically build logic. So you have to let me give you a certain example. The example is, let's say the number was 12045. So what I want to print, I want you to print is, see, this would be the output. The output would be 5, 4, 0, 2, and 1. I want you to basically print all these numbers, and yeah, I want you to print all these numbers in such an order that, see, the number was 12,045. So 5 was the last digit. So starting from the last digit, I wanted till to print you till the first digit. So 54021. Either you can print like this, or another way also you can print. I will tell you both the ways. 5, then space 4, then space 0, then space 2, then space 1. So this is the another way. Now I will write the code for both of them, and you can see uh, how I will do that. Before that, let me explain you certain concept as well of extracting a particular digit of a number. So let me give you a certain example. This is a very important topic. Okay, so how do I extract each and every digit? So how do I get each and every digit of a number? When you will study the strings and data types, data structures such as list, tuple, set, dictionary, you will get to know that it is very easy in those cases. What so, but in case of a number, it is not that easy. So, how do I extract a particular number? Let's say my number was, I'm taking the same example, or let me take some certain smaller number. Let's say the number is 1201. Okay, this is my number. How do I extract its digit? You know that if I take the if I divide the number by 10, suppose if what I want to say is, suppose I have this number with me. If I do this, I will take this number and I will divide it by 10, or when divided by 10, I will take its remainder. So what will be its remainder when I divide this particular number with 10? Its remainder will be 1. Okay, so I basically got the last digit of a number. So this means that to get the last digit of a number, what you can do is you can just do the modulus operator on that number, or you can just calculate the remainder of that number when that number is divided by 10. So since I have extracted the last digit, now I will move to extracting this particular 0 as well. This will be my focus now. Now, how do I extract this particular number? If I will uh, calculate this number's remainder by 10 again, I will get 1 again. So what I can do is, okay, what if I divide this number by 10? Let's see. So you know that 1201 when divided by 10 is basically equals to something like 120.1000 and so on. There would be many zeros, but I am not concerned about them. So you will get 120.1 and so on. Now, this is a certain number, but you cannot calculate remainder for this particular number because you know that remainder is calculated in case of integers. So instead of that, what you can do is you should not do some float division, or what I meant to say is, can I convert this 120.1 into 120? So how can I convert this fraction number or decimal number rather into a integer? I can do that by performing an integer division instead of a normal division. So what I can do is, instead of a single division symbol, I can use a double division symbol. So what will be my output? My output in this case would be 120. Okay, now I got a 120. What if I calculate 120 modulo 10? So it will actually be equal to 0. Okay, so now I got my second last digit as well. I got a 1, I got a 0. Okay, now can I do this again? Can I extract 2 like this as well? Yes, the answer is yes. What I can do is, I can take this 120, I can perform an integer division with 10 and I will get a 12. Okay, I got a 12. Now can I get its remainder when I divide this by 10? I'm actually not dividing by 10, but I'm just getting its remainder if I divide it by 10. So the answer would be 2. Okay, so I got my last digit I got my second last digit. I even got my third last digit. Now I need to get my first digit, which is 1. So I can do this again. Now I got 12. I can do 12 integer division by 10. This will basically be equal to 1. Okay, now I got 1. So do not forget that now please do not take this 1 directly. What you need to do is you need to calculate 1 modulo 10. I know that it will also be equal to 1, but do not do a mistake of taking this 1 itself. It will create a problem. Now, since I got a 1, I also need to divide for the next step. What I will do is I will do 1 integer division by 10, which is basically equals to 0, because 1 divided by 10 is equal to 0 0.1, but integer out of it is 0, so I will get a 0. So this means I need to stop now. Since I got a 0, I need to stop now. So you can see that we have to start from the initial number. We have to go until and unless the number becomes 0. At each and every step, first we have to calculate the modulus of that particular number or the remainder of that particular number when divided by 10. Then we have to actually integer divide that number by 10, and then we will perform this set of operations again and again until and unless we get a 0. So now I am going to write the code for you first on my screen on this particular notebook. Then I will write that code on our VS Code. So the code is basically like this. So now I am writing the code. You can take some number from the user. Uh, so num is certain number. Okay, let me take it from the user. I am taking certain input from the user. That is not a concern for now. Now, if number is 0, that condition that num should be greater than 0 will actually be false. So I should also print 0 if the number itself is 0. What I mean to say is if the number was 0, I can directly print 0 because it is the only digit. So 0 has just 0 in it. So I can give a condition if number is actually equal to 0, print 0. Now note one more thing. I am taking these examples for positive numbers or numbers which are positive, and yeah, one case is 0 as well. So 0 and all the positive numbers. I am not taking the consideration of negative numbers. You can calculate for them as well, but for them you need to study something called as if you will use certain mathematical function which is defined in Python, the absolute function. We will study it in our future sessions, but for now, we can focus more on positive numbers and 0. So we have solved the question for the 0. Now let's solve it for positive numbers. So I will write while the number should, we will run the loop till the number is greater than 0. So this is my condition. Now what do I want to print at each and every step? I want to print the updated number remainder when it is divided by 10. So what I will do is I will print num modulo 10, or basically what you can do is a better way. You can take a variable as digit which is equals to num modulo 10. You can directly print this digit, and yeah, So you can print it like this if you want your output to be in this particular fashion, or if you want to print it like this, what you can do is you note the sap parameter. You can not the sap parameter but the end parameter. You can use that. So if you want to print in a single line separated by spaces, what you can do is you can give an end parameter. Since you are not giving all the objects at once, you are giving each and every digit on a different print uh, function. So you cannot use a set parameter over here. You must use an end parameter. So first let me write this thing. What you can do is you can write print digit, then comma, and is equals to, then you can give certain space. So like this you can do. Then what I will do is I also have to update the number. So num integer divided by 10. So this was my code. Now I will run this code on the VS Code also. So what I am doing is I am creating a new file digits of a number .py. So I will take a num as input from the user, integer input, uh, enter a number. Then what I will do is if num is equals to 0, I can print 0 itself. Otherwise, I will write a condition while num is greater than 0. Now I will take certain variable as digit. I will calculate num's remainder when divided by 10. I will print this digit, or yeah, basically I can also do this thing. I can print digit, then the end parameter also I can give if I want all the digits to be separated by space. Then I also need to update the number by dividing it in an integer format, or dividing it into a by 10 and then converting it into an integer. So let me run this particular program. So let me give you an certain input 12045. You can see 54021 got printed. Similarly, if I give the input as 0, you can see that 0 got printed. Now note one more thing over here. See, what if I use this another format? Uh, what I can do is, yeah, like this. Now let me run this program again. 12045 is my input. You can see 54021 got printed on a single line, and they are separated by a space. Do note that there is a space over here also after the 1. Okay, so this was our question. Now I have uh, something called as nested loops. So nested loops. So now I have a certain concept called as nested loops. So what are nested loops? Just like nested if statements. Uh, in the case of nested if statements, we had one if statement, another inside if statement. Similarly, in case of nested loops, we have one or more loops inside another loops. So we can say loop inside another loop. Now they can be There can be a for loop inside a while loop inside a or for loop inside for loop, while loop inside while loop, and so on. So there is no restriction on which loop we are using. And yeah, this is all about nested loops. Uh, but I have a certain thing for you. So how do we write the syntax of certain loop? Let's say I'm certain nested loop. Suppose I'm writing the syntax for nested for loops. So how do I write the syntax? This is the question. So this is syntax basically is uh, for variable. You can write any variable, or for simplicity, I am writing certain variables over here. Let's say I, for I in range. Then I am giving certain start value. Let's call it start one. Then certain end value. Let's call it end uh, one. Then some step value. Let's call it step one, and so on. Not so on. What I meant to say is uh, colons. Then within this, I can have certain code as well. I can have certain code. Then I can have another for loop. Let's say I am using for j in range. Start, let's say start 2, then end 2, then step 2. Do note that the way in which I am giving the indentation. That is a very important point. Otherwise, your code can give an error. So there will be certain code as well within it. There can be certain code outside this as well. So let me explain you what actually happens. So first I have written for I in range, start one, end one, step one. So this particular outer loop, I'm calling it the outer loop. So basically this loop will, let's say, run for n times. Then it has certain code. So this particular code will run for n times. Then I have for j in range, uh, start 2, end 2, step 2. So what will happen is for each iteration of the outer loop, j will run or the inner loop will run multiple times. Uh, Let me give you certain example for this, then you will understand it better. Let me give you certain question. This is a good question. Uh, the question is generate the multiplication table of, let's say, 5, 10, and 15. Okay, so this is my question. This kind of questions in which, let's say, you want to generate multiplication tables of multiple numbers. So you can use nested loops in this case. So let me, what I will do is, since I want to generate uh, the multiplication table of 5, 10, and 15. So for each number 5, 10, and 15, I will multiply each number starting from 1 till 10. So I have to multiply this 5 by each number starting from 1 till 10. Then I have to multiply 10 from each number starting from 1 till 10. Similarly, I have to multiply 15 starting from 1 till 10. So basically the number whose multiplication table is being printed. That number will be decided by the outer loop. So I will write the outer loop for that for I in range. Let's say I have to start from 5 because 5 is my first number. Then 15 is my last number. So I will give one extra value over here, which will be 16, because 16 will be excluded and the number will grow till 15. Then what I want to do is I want the multiplication table of 5, 10, and 15. So you can see 5 plus 5 is 10, 10 plus 5 is 15. So I can give a step of 5. So I am giving a step of 5. Then I am giving a colons. Now within these I can for each and every number, I can generate all numbers starting from 1 till 10, and I can multiply that number like 5 by each number till 10. I can do this. What I will do is now for j in range, I want numbers starting from 1 till 10, so I will take one extra number. And no need to take this step over here because the default step would be used, which is 1. Then what I want to print is print I, the x I have to use, then multiplied by j is equals to I multiplied by j. Then since I have printed all the numbers or multiplication of each and every number, I also will like to separate the table of 5 with the table of 10 with the table of 15. So what I can do is I can give an empty print over here. What will happen is, since I have not given any object within it, and we know that the end parameter is by default \n. So what will happen is it will give a line space. So the table of 5 will be separated by the table of 10, and the table of 10 will get separated by the table of 15. So now I am going to run this particular example for you in the form of code. Now I am creating a new file called tables using nested.py. What I will do is I will take the outer loop for I in range starting from 5 till 16, and the increment will be 5, just like how we wrote the code. Then I will print, not print, basically I will for j in range from 1 till 11, I can print the table like this. How will I print the table? What I can do is I can I, then comma, then multiplication symbol, then j, then this equals to, then I multiplied by j. This is how I will print. Then see or notice the indentation and how I am giving the indentation. So this empty print statement, or not the statement, empty print function, which is not having any objects within it, I have not given it within this loop. I have given this within this loop. So for if this loop, outer loop, runs for once, this will run for 10 times. Similarly, what I want to say is, let's say I is 5. So for 5, this inner loop will run for 1 till 10. So it will run 10 times. Then since after this particular inner loop has run for 10 times, this particular print statement will get executed for once. So this inner loop is running for multiple times for the outer loop, and for each outer loop, this print statement is getting executed once. This statement, this one print, this print, which is basically empty. So let me run this particular code for you. You can see that multiplication table of 5, 10, and 15 got printed. This is the table of 5. Then we have a line over here. Then this is the table of 10. Then we have a line over here. Then this is the table of 15. Then we have a line over here. So this was our code. So after the nested loops, now this particular session is over. Now I have certain homework questions for you as well. I have 2 questions for you. So the first question basically is, you have to take a number as input from the user and you have to count its number of digits. Suppose the number is 1, 2, 3, 4, so it has 4 digits. So you have to display 4 digits as your output. So this is first question. It is easy question, and you can do it because it basically has the same concepts which we have studied today. Now the second question, which is a bit more difficult, yet I want you to try this particular question. The second question, which is take a number as input from the user and reverse the number. So suppose the number is 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to reverse the number and make it, or you must display the output as 4, 3, 2, 1. Now this question is basically a little bit difficult, but if you think logically, just like how I thought logically over here, if you think logically for these 2 questions, you will find out that they are not very difficult. So I want you to try these particular questions for, as homework, and if you get your answers, please comment your answers in the comment box. I will check your answers, and yes, I will also be discussing these questions in the next session, because our motto is not only to learn Python but also to develop the logical thinking. So this was all for today. If you watched the video till here, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. Thank you.